Now, here's a tricky word. Which of the following prevents a person from adopting a position which is in conflict with a previous position or a previous action? So I've said one thing and now I'm saying another. And I'm like, oh, ignore what I said before. I'm not responsible for that because now I've changed my mind, right? That would be bad. Fiduciary duty, doctrine of good faith, lease pendens, or doctrine of estoppels. So estoppels, right? Estoppels is where I can't backpedal. I can't turn around and change my mind and say, oh, well, that's not what I meant. I'm not responsible for that because I didn't mean that. And here's what I mean now, right? The doctrine of estoppels doesn't let me back out of what I've said, doesn't let me backpedal from what I've said. But there's another word on here, a couple words on here I want to talk about. What about fiduciary duty? Could somebody tell me, I'm a real estate broker, what are some of the fiduciary duties that I might owe to my clients? Remember what they spell out, old car, right? One of the disclosures is one, very good, Emma, disclosure. So the O is obedience. The L is loyalty. D is disclosure. C is confidentiality. A is accounting or accountability, depending on who you ask. And what's the R? Did anybody get the R yet? Yeah, there we go. Emma's got it. Reasonable skill and care. Reasonable skill and care. What does it mean when I say reasonable skill and care? What does that even mean? And that means like I don't speak out of turn. I don't give information that I'm not 100% sure about. If I tell you something, I want to make sure that I'm giving you correct information. I don't just kind of guess, right? It's part of my job, my fiduciary duty to try really hard to make sure that I give my clients the right information when they need it. All right, next, a bilateral contract is one that where a promise by one party is given in exchange for a promise by another party, where one party is given an option to perform, which applies only to leases, or where one party agrees to perform. Now, everybody got that one quickly with A, but what is D if we say where one party agrees to perform and the other one doesn't necessarily have to? What kind of a contract would that be? Unilateral, very good. You guys got it right away. Unilateral contract. So, okay, valuable, good, sufficient, and adequate are terms most closely associated with. Is it performance, bilateral contracts, compensation, or consideration? Valuable, good, sufficient, and adequate are terms most likely associated with performance, bilateral contracts, compensation, or consideration. All right. You guys got that one pretty easily, but let's do a little bit of a deeper dive with this. If we're talking about consideration, what is an example of good consideration? I was talking about this with one of the tutoring students today. Tell me what is an example of good consideration. If I say I gave Natalie good consideration for her house. Nobody's got this one yet. Wow, I've stumped you guys. Good consideration is a gift. It's usually used for a gift. So good consideration would be something like my love and affection. That's literally what it legally means, right? So if Natalie is my sister and I gave her my house in exchange, she would give me good consideration, which is her love and affection. So again, when we're giving a gift, we say that the consideration is good consideration. It's something like a gift, love, affection, things like that. You're not giving me money. You're just giving me your happiness and joy of us being happy together, right? So that's good consideration versus valuable consideration. I'm giving you something of value, literally something of value. So a listing agreement is is it rental agreement, novation, assignment agreement, or employment contract? An employment contract, right? So when a contract contains provisions outlining what money penalties will be levied against the party that refuses to perform, the amount specified is known as, is it consideration, performance guarantees, liquidated damages, or earnest money? What do you guys think? Now, you're right, it's liquidated damages, but why is liquidated damages? What makes it liquidated? We agree in advance, right? If we agree in advance what the punishment will be if I don't do what I say I'm going to do, then that's considered to be liquidated damages. It's not something that gets agreed to later. So let me give you an example. If I said to Carolyn and Tyrone that I was going to buy their house and then I was giving them $5,000 earnest money that's non-refundable if I don't close on the house in the next 30 days. Day 35 rolls around. Carolyn and Tyrone are about sick and tired of waiting on me. And they're like, hey, you were supposed to close on this property and you didn't do it. Therefore, we're going to keep your earnest money because we had agreed in advance if you didn't do this, the liquidated damages would be the earnest money. It's non-refundable earnest money there, right? Now, normally, damages are something that we've come to an agreement on after there's been a problem. But in liquidated damages, we're kind of like hedging our bets. We're saying, well, if something goes wrong, we want to know it before we even start out what the punishment's going to be or what the repercussion is going to be there. Broker Lou took a listing on commercial acreages and also reserved the right to purchase the property within 30 days. On the 28th day of the listing, the broker decided to buy the property. Before buying the property, he must give the owner any material information. All of the other options are correct, so it might be all of these. Let's listen. Obtain a written consent from the owner which acknowledges any profit or anticipated profit, or disclose any outstanding offers, or is it all of them? Is it all of them? It is all of them. You guys are correct. He would have to give the owner any material information. He would have to give any written consent from the owner acknowledging the profit or anticipated profit, and he would have to disclose any outstanding offers. Why? What is it in this question that tells you that he would have to do all those things? He took the listing and he also had an option to buy the property. So he kind of became a part of the deal, right? If he wants to buy the property as the listing agent, he can't be representing the seller of the property and himself at the same time. So he would have to tell all the information that he has, get that out in the open, give any outstanding offers, and get a notice from the seller letting them know that they understand that if he's going to make a profit on this, here's the anticipated profit he plans to make. So he can't play both sides of the fence. He can't go out, list the property for sale, and not do his best to market it so that he can hope to get a better deal for himself. Kelly is shown a home by her agent, Selwyn. She makes an offer and gives Selwyn a check. At what point does her offer become an enforceable contract to buy? So let me read that one more time. Kelly is shown a home by her agent, Selwyn. She makes an offer and gives Selwyn a check. At what point does her offer become an enforceable contract to buy? Is it as soon as Selwyn receives her offer or check? Is it when Kelly is notified and that the seller accepts the offer? As soon as the seller receives the offer and the check? So when Kelly is told that her offer is accepted, so not only has the offer been accepted, but she's told about it. We've had communication of acceptance. Now we have a contract, just like that earlier question that we did, right? We have to communicate back that acceptance. When must all listings in an office be renegotiated? When must all of the listings in an office be renegotiated? Is it a listing can never be renegotiated? Is it if the employing principal or broker dies? If there are multiple offers? Or if the couple gets divorced, if a couple gets divorced. So when do we have to renegotiate all of these listings in the office? If the employing or principal broker dies. Because remember, he is the guy who all of the listings belong to, or girl. This is the person that all of the listings in the office belong to. And if they are dead, so too is our employment contract with each of these people, right? Because if the broker is the one who's being employed, and he passes away, then we would have to renegotiate all the listings because when we're deceased, we can't really go to work, right? I know that sounds kind of morbid, but right. All right, next question. To assign a contract for the sale of real estate means to, is it allow the seller and the buyer to exchange positions? Is it to permit another broker to act as an agent for the principal? Is it record the contract with the county recorder's office? Or is it transfer one's right under the contract? To assign a contract for the sale of real estate means to do which one of these? Yeah, to transfer one's rights under the contract. Yeah, I was like, oh, wait, everybody's getting this one wrong for a minute here. All right, so let's talk about this because we had a lot of wrong answers on this one. So let's talk about it for a second. To assign a contract for the sale of real estate means to transfer one's rights under the contract. So let's say Tanaya has a contract to purchase my house for $500,000. And she goes through the whole situation where she's trying to get her financing together. She's trying to get the contract closed, and things aren't working out. No matter what she does, she just can't get this done in the time frame that she has. She only has 30 days to get this done. So she goes over to Emma and asks Emma if she would like to buy my house instead. She will transfer the contract over to Emma, transfer her rights under the contract over to Emma, and assign the contract to Emma, and then Emma can close with me instead. Same price, same terms, but she's going to assign that contract to Emma. That means she's going to let Emma step in to her place and go ahead and close the deal with me. Does that make sense for everybody? Do you understand that? Okay, cool. Okay. Now, one thing I want to say about this, a contract is assignable unless the contract prohibits it. Now, what the heck does that mean? All real estate contracts, unless they say specifically that they cannot be assigned, are assignable. So that scenario that I gave to each of you, where I said, oh, for example, if I had this contract and I wanted to assign it to Emma, as long as the contract doesn't specifically say that assignment is prohibited, I can do that. Now, if I assign my contract to Emma and then Emma flakes out and she doesn't close the deal like I had agreed to, then I can still be responsible to the original person who I made the contract with, even though I signed it to Emma. But unless the contract says I can't assign it, then I could do that. We have a contract which, according to the Statute of Frauds, must be in writing in order to be enforceable is that the employment of a broker to exchange leases on properties zoned for retail business? Is it any agreement which is not to be performed within 1 year? Is it the employment of a business opportunity broker to find a business to be purchased by its principal? Or is it the employment of a business opportunity broker to sell the stock, fixtures, and goodwill of a business? Which one must be in writing to be enforceable? We cannot fool you guys. You're just too good. Any agreement which is not to be performed within 1 year. Because remember, the Statute of Frauds says that real estate contracts have to be in writing in order to be enforced in a courtroom. But with the exception usually of short leases, like of a year or less.